Welcome to Globewise Entertainment, your backstage pass to the bold, the buried, and the banned. Today, we're peeling back the censorship curtain to spotlight 15 once-censored 70s movies that pushed boundaries, shocked audiences, and were locked away for decades, until now. From controversial art house gems to gritty cult classics, these films were too raw, too real, or just too ahead of their time. But guess what? You can finally watch them uncut, uncensored, and unapologetic. If you haven't subscribed to Globewise Entertainment yet, hit that button now, because we're bringing you the stories Hollywood tried to silence. And don't forget to drop your favorite uncut 70s movie in the comments below. We're dying to know which one still hits hardest. 1. The Night Porter, 1974. In post-war Vienna, Lucia, a beautiful and composed young woman, checks into a quiet hotel with her husband. But the past isn't buried. She comes face to face with Max, the night porter, a man with whom she shares a dark, disturbing history. Once an SS officer during World War II, Max had a complex, obsessive relationship with Lucia when she was a teenage prisoner in a concentration camp. As their eyes meet again in the cold hotel lobby, a twisted passion reignites. What follows is a haunting psychological dance of desire, guilt, control, and trauma played out behind closed doors. Their dangerous affair draws them into a shadowy world of former Nazis trying to hide their crimes. As secrets unravel, Lucia and Max retreat into their own warped bubble, teetering on the edge of self-destruction. Review: why it was censored and why you can watch it now. The Night Porter shocked audiences in 1974 with its raw portrayal of a sadomasochistic relationship rooted in the horrors of the Holocaust. Blurring the lines between victim and captor, love and control, it was banned or censored in several countries for graphic bold content, bold imagery, and disturbing psychological themes. But today, this controversial classic is available uncut on several streaming platforms. Viewed through a modern lens, it's recognized as a bold, provocative exploration of post-war trauma and forbidden love, albeit not without controversy. Its haunting performances, especially by Charlotte Rampling and Dirk Bogarde, and its eerie, subdued atmosphere continue to challenge and mesmerize cinephiles today. Globewise Entertainment tip for viewers: if you're exploring bold cinema that once shocked the world, The Night Porter is a must-watch. Just be prepared for a deeply unsettling, thought-provoking experience. 2. Emmanuelle, 1974. In the haze of 1970s Bangkok, Emmanuelle, a diplomat's young French wife, steps into a world far removed from polite European society. Curious, elegant, and emotionally adrift, she finds herself drawn into an underground world of sensual liberation. Guided by the mysterious and philosophical Mario, Emmanuelle embarks on a journey that explores the edges of passion, control, and personal identity. As her experiences deepen, she is forced to confront not just the limits of her body, but the freedom of her soul. In a time when women's autonomy was stifled, Emmanuelle dares to ask, what if desire wasn't shameful, but a form of truth? Review: Emmanuelle, 1974, isn't just a provocative classic, it's a cultural lightning rod. Stylishly directed by Just Jekin and starring the iconic Sylvia Crystal, the film was banned, censored, and protested worldwide. But beneath its surface lies a surprisingly artistic, softly lit meditation on female liberation and identity. While controversial in its time, Emmanuelle is now appreciated for its bold cinematography, exotic settings, and unapologetic portrayal of desire. Watching it uncut today reveals more than shock. It shows a cinematic time capsule of a world craving change. In 1974, Emmanuelle pushed every boundary Hollywood feared to touch. Censored in dozens of countries, this French erotic drama broke taboos with elegance. But was it art or scandal? Watching it uncut today gives us the answer. Your list? 3. Salon Kitty, 1976. In the shadowy heart of Nazi Germany, there existed a secret brothel known only to the elite, Salon Kitty. But beneath its velvet curtains and whispered pleasures was a trap, one designed by the SS to seduce and expose high-ranking officers. At the center of it all stood Kitty Schmidt, the madam forced to turn her upscale salon into a den of espionage. Unbeknownst to her clients, every moan and murmur was recorded, every betrayal catalogued. But the true power struggle ignites when Margarita, a young, beautiful prostitute with secrets of her own, becomes a pawn in a dangerous game of love, politics, and revenge. As Nazi ambitions spiral out of control, the women of Salon Kitty face a harrowing choice: remain pawns, or burn the whole system down from within. Review. Salon Kitty, 1976, is Luchino Visconti meets exploitation cinema, a controversial mix of high-style political drama and erotic shock. Banned and censored across many countries for its graphic content and Nazi-themed decadence, this film shocked audiences with its boldness. But behind the explicit imagery lies a deeper commentary on corruption, surveillance, and female resistance in a fascist regime. With striking cinematography and unforgettable performances, Salon Kitty remains a cult classic that dared to mix sensuality with political subversion. Now available uncut, the film invites modern viewers to confront the disturbing beauty of a dangerous era, uncensored and unfiltered. 4. Bilitis, 1977. Set against the golden hues of a sun-drenched European summer, Bilitis follows a teenage girl sent to stay with a sophisticated married couple. As Bilitis explores a world of sensuality, desire, and hidden emotions, she finds herself caught between forbidden passions and adolescent confusion. Her fascination with her beautiful host, and her own sexual awakening, sets the tone for a hauntingly poetic journey of longing and heartbreak. Directed by famed photographer David Hamilton, the film is more of a soft-focused dream than a traditional narrative, a visual diary of coming-of-age wrapped in whispers, glances, and shadows. Review. Bilitis was controversial for its portrayal of underage sensuality and lesbian themes, drawing heavy censorship upon release. Today, it remains a visually lush yet polarizing film, praised for its artistic photography, yet criticized for its blurred ethical lines. Watching it uncut today offers a glimpse into a 1970s era where beauty and taboo often collided on screen. A provocative relic, both romantic and unsettling. 5. The Beast La Bête, 1975. In a crumbling French estate cloaked in mystery, young aristocrat Mathurin waits to inherit his family's legacy, but first he must marry. A spirited and wealthy woman named Lucy is chosen as his bride, arriving unaware of the dark secrets buried within the mansion's walls. As the wedding approaches, Lucy begins to have haunting dreams of forests, mythical creatures, and primal fears. The dreams blur the line between fantasy and reality, revealing the curse of the estate, a legend of a beastly creature tied to Mathurin's bloodline. As Lucy uncovers more, she must decide whether to run from the monstrous truth or embrace it. A surreal blend of dream logic and forbidden desires, La Bête confronts the human psyche at its most unguarded. La Bête, 1975, remains one of the most talked about and controversial art house films of the 1970s. Directed by Walerian Borowczyk, it was heavily censored for decades due to its bold and surreal exploration of human nature, dreams, and myth. Despite, or perhaps because of, its taboo reputation, The Beast is visually poetic and layered with allegory. It's not a horror film in the traditional sense, but a psychological and erotic fantasy rooted in folklore and repressed fears. Now available uncut for the first time in many regions, it invites a new generation of viewers to witness what censors once tried to bury. For those curious about cinema that dares to challenge the norm, La Bête is a bold, unforgettable experience. 6. Flesh Gordon, 1974. In a far-out galaxy of the 1970s, the Earth is being plagued by mysterious, bold rays sent by the wicked Emperor Wang, the perverted, ruler of the planet Porno. When morality collapses and chaos reigns, only one man is bold and bare-chested, enough to save the day. Flash Gordon, a heroic parody of the famous space adventurer Flash Gordon. Joined by the daring Dale Arter and the zany scientist Dr. Flexi Jerkoff, Flash blasts off in a phallic-shaped spaceship to stop the madness at its source. Along the way, he battles evil robots, pervy mutants, and groovy alien seductresses in a psychedelic journey of satire and sensual spectacle. What follows is a wild blend of sci-fi, slapstick, and sexual innuendo, with cheeky humor, risque effects, and a surprisingly detailed homage to classic pulp adventures. Beneath the absurdity lies a weirdly imaginative tribute to both vintage comics and 1970s sexual liberation. Review: Flash Gordon is a wild ride through campy space adventure and body parody. Though once censored for its explicit content, today's uncut version reveals a clever, if controversial, cult classic that pokes fun at both sci-fi tropes and sexual taboos of the era. With low-budget charm, over-the-top effects, and satirical flair, it straddles the line between comedy and controversy, making it a must-watch for fans of retro weirdness. It's not for kids, but for adults with a taste for cheeky cinema history, Flash Gordon is a bizarre blast from the past. 7. Straw Dogs, 1971. When peace turns to brutality. In the quiet countryside of Cornwall, American mathematician David Sumner and his English wife Amy seek refuge from the chaos of the city. What begins as an escape into peace becomes a nightmare of rising tension and buried violence. David, a quiet intellectual, finds himself surrounded by locals who mock his passive nature, and his wife's past with one of them stirs deep, dangerous jealousy. When a series of small humiliations explode into shocking acts of aggression, David must confront his own capacity for violence. In a brutal climax, the man who once avoided conflict must fight tooth and nail to survive. The peaceful haven becomes a battleground of masculinity, morality, and revenge. Review: Straw Dogs is a psychological thriller that shocked audiences in 1971 and still stirs debate today. Directed by Sam Peckinpah, it blurred the lines between victim and aggressor, sparking controversy for its raw depictions of violence and a disturbing assault scene that was heavily censored or banned in several countries. But beneath the brutal surface lies a disturbing portrait of a man pushed to the edge, and society's uncomfortable truths about power and control. With its haunting atmosphere and unforgettable climax, the uncut version reveals the full, unflinching vision of a film that dares to ask, what would you do when all civility breaks down? Now available uncut, Straw Dogs remains one of the most challenging and talked about films of the 1970s. 8. Suspiria, 1977. A young American ballet student, Susie Banyan, arrives in Germany to attend the prestigious Tanz Academy. But from the moment she steps off the plane, things feel off. The rain lashes down. A fleeing student screams into the night and dies horribly. Inside the academy, Susie encounters strange teachers, unnerving music, and whispered warnings from terrified classmates. The walls hide more than mirrors and dancers. They echo with witchcraft. As nightmares blur into reality, Susie uncovers the horrifying truth. The school is a front for a coven of ancient witches led by the terrifying Mother Suspiriorum. Blood flows, colors explode in surreal terror, and the dance of death begins. She must face the darkness before she becomes its final offering. Review: Why Suspiria, 1977, was censored, and why it's a must-watch today. Dario Argento's Suspiria was banned or heavily cut in several countries due to its graphic violence, hallucinogenic visuals, and occult themes. But today, you can finally experience it uncut and fully restored, and it's unlike anything you've seen. With its hypnotic soundtrack by Goblin, vivid Technicolor palette, and brutal, balletic horror, Suspiria remains a masterclass in nightmare cinema. This isn't just a horror movie, it's an experience. If you love surreal horror, this one's essential. Just don't watch it alone. 9. House on the Edge of the Park, 1979. In the sweltering heat of a 1970s New York summer, two low-level mechanics, Alex and Ricky, find themselves unexpectedly invited to an upscale party in the suburbs after helping a rich couple with car trouble. But behind the gleam of the mansion lies a darkness that mirrors the twisted minds of the two guests. Alex, charming but psychopathic, slowly begins to unravel, using manipulation, seduction, and brute force to turn the elegant gathering into a nightmare. Ricky, more naive and slow-witted, struggles to keep up as the tension between class, power, and violence explodes into terror. But the hosts have secrets of their own. As roles reverse and victims fight back, the night spirals into a shocking climax, revealing who the true monsters really are when masks come off. Review: House on the Edge of the Park, 1979. Banned or heavily cut for decades, House on the Edge of the Park is a raw, controversial exploitation thriller from director Ruggero Deodato, best known for Cannibal Holocaust. Featuring David Hess in a disturbingly memorable performance, the film dives into themes of class warfare, sadism, and revenge. While the violence and sexual content earned it bans across several countries, it's now available fully uncut, giving viewers a chance to experience the intense, gritty atmosphere the filmmakers originally intended. Not for the faint of heart, but a chilling reminder of the Grindhouse era's ability to disturb, provoke, and captivate. 10. The Hills Have Eyes, 1977. Savage survival in the desert. In the blistering Mojave Desert, the Carter family embarks on a road trip that quickly turns into a nightmare. Their station wagon breaks down in a remote government testing area, an unforgiving stretch of rocky hills and eerie silence. What they don't know is that they've just entered the territory of a savage, cannibalistic clan, mutated by years of nuclear fallout from secret military experiments. As night falls, the hills come alive, pierced with guttural howls, flickers of movement, and eyes that watch from the shadows. When violence erupts, the Carter family's struggle for survival becomes primal. Trapped between humanity and horror, they must fight back against a bloodthirsty tribe that knows no mercy and calls this Hell's Cape home. Review: Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes, 1977, is raw, relentless, and once heavily censored for its graphic violence and disturbing themes. Today, you can watch it uncut and fully appreciate its gritty commentary on civilization versus savagery. With its grainy cinematography, bleak atmosphere, and haunting villain Pluto, played by Michael Berryman, this cult classic still shocks and provokes. It's not just a slasher, it's a survival story with real bite. This is not for the faint-hearted, but if you're a fan of 70s horror with teeth, this uncut version delivers every brutal second Craven intended. 11. The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, 1974. In the sleepy British countryside, two strangers, George, a free-spirited antiques dealer, and Edna, a young woman on her way to visit her sister, become unlikely allies when their journey is derailed by a series of gruesome murders. The locals blame satanic cults. The police blame the outsiders. But George suspects something far stranger is at play. A new experimental agricultural machine, designed to kill pests using ultrasonic radiation, is awakening something deep beneath the soil. The dead begin to stir, sluggish at first, then vicious, unstoppable. As corpses rise from their graves and attack the living, George and Edna must fight both the walking dead and a cynical, hard-nosed inspector who refuses to believe a word of their story until it's too late. Dark, eerie, and dripping with atmosphere, this 70s cult horror gem dares to blend science fiction, zombie terror, and anti-authoritarian angst in one unforgettable nightmare. Review: The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, 1974, is a chilling, slow-burn zombie film that delivers on dread and originality. Often overshadowed by George Romero's work, this British-Spanish horror entry brings a gritty realism and ecological subtext that still hits hard today. Censored upon release for its graphic violence and unsettling themes, it's now available uncut, and it's more relevant than ever. With haunting cinematography, eerie rural settings, and one of the first eco-horror zombie concepts, this film is a must-watch for fans of atmospheric 70s horror. A true cult classic that finally gets its due. 12. Torso, 1973. In the dark hills of Perugia, Italy, a group of female university students seeks solace from a string of brutal murders by escaping to a remote countryside villa. Among them is Jane, an American exchange student who carries both curiosity and fear. As they settle in, hoping for peace, the killer follows, masked, silent, and methodical. One by one, the women disappear, and Jane begins to suspect that the monster among them isn't far. It may be someone they already trust. What unfolds is a nerve-shredding descent into terror, where beauty, desire, and violence collide in classic 1970s giallo fashion. Torso pushes the envelope with its bold blend of eroticism and slasher horror, a style that shocked censors and audiences alike. Review: Torso, 1973. Torso is a bold, stylized slasher that laid the groundwork for the American horror boom of the 80s. Directed by Sergio Martino, it blends sensuality and suspense with chilling precision. Though once heavily censored for its nudity and brutal violence, modern audiences can now experience it fully restored, and it's more gripping than ever. Its psychological tension, haunting score, and ahead-of-its-time camera work make Torso a must-watch for fans of classic thrillers and grindhouse cinema. 13. Zardoz, 1974. In a post-apocalyptic future, the Earth is divided between two societies, the immortal, bored elite called the Eternals, and the brutish exterminators who rule the savage outlands. Among them is Zed, a violent enforcer played by Sean Connery, clad in red bandoliers and a loincloth, bearing a wild look and a fierce purpose. Zed's world is ruled by a godlike stone head named Zardoz, who preaches that the gun is good and the penis is evil. But when Zed infiltrates the Eternals' paradise, he uncovers a shocking truth. Zardoz is a lie, a manufactured myth to control the masses. As Zed confronts the seemingly utopian but decaying world of the Eternals, he becomes a catalyst for chaos, change, and the rediscovery of mortality. Zardoz is not just a dystopian tale. It's a surreal, philosophical odyssey exploring power, control, immortality, and human nature. Review: Zardoz, 1974, is one of the strangest and most provocative sci-fi films of the 1970s, a visual fever dream that shocked censors with its bizarre imagery, semi-nude performances, and radical ideas. Directed by John Borman, it was heavily censored in several countries due to nudity, religious symbolism, and philosophical themes that pushed boundaries. Today, Zardoz is available uncut, and while it may not be for everyone, it's a must-watch for fans of cult cinema and 70s science fiction. Sean Connery's fearless performance in a completely offbeat role makes this forgotten gem worth rediscovering. Whether you view it as a masterpiece or a misfire, Zardoz is unforgettable. 14. Sweet Movie, 1974, a candy-coated nightmare. Beneath the glitter of a beauty pageant crown, a young woman named Miss World finds herself trapped in a surreal nightmare, sold to a wealthy businessman and sealed in a golden suit meant to preserve her purity. But her escape is only the beginning. She journeys through a landscape drenched in political satire, absurdity, and provocation, eventually crossing paths with a bizarre boat that sails the canals of Paris, led by a radical anarchist. Each chapter of her journey is stranger than the last, tangled in revolutionary ideologies, bizarre rituals, and dark comedy. Sweet Movie doesn't follow the rules of storytelling. It breaks them apart, leaving behind a cinematic fever dream that challenges authority, censorship, and even the audience itself. It's not a story with heroes or villains, but with symbols. Each moment pushes against repression, both political and sexual, wrapped in images so shocking they earned bans in several countries. Review: why it was censored, and why you can watch it now. Sweet Movie was banned and heavily censored in multiple countries upon release, Canada, Britain, and even parts of Europe, due to its explicit political metaphors and highly provocative scenes. But under its surreal surface lies a bold critique of capitalism, communism, and the control of the human body. Director Dusan Makavejev didn't just want to entertain, he wanted to disrupt. Today, the film is available uncut on select streaming platforms and special edition Blu-rays, recognized more as a rebellious work of avant-garde cinema than pure controversy. Viewer advisory: this is not for casual viewing. It's a film that demands interpretation and patience. But for cinephiles seeking art that once challenged the limits of censorship, Sweet Movie is unforgettable. 15. Catch-22, 1970. Sanity in the Skies. The Paradox of Yassarian. In the chaos of World War II, Captain John Yassarian, a U.S. Army bombardier, is obsessed with one goal: staying alive. As the missions pile up and the death toll rises, Yassarian grows increasingly paranoid. His comrades vanish one by one, while military bureaucracy tightens its noose. But the real enemy? A rule called Catch-22. You can't be declared insane if you want to avoid flying more missions, because only a sane man would want to avoid dying. Trapped in this vicious paradox, Yassarian spirals into desperation. His attempts to escape the madness of war are met with red tape, manipulation, and cold military logic. As the film builds toward a psychological and emotional climax, we're left asking, who's really insane? The man trying to survive, or the system that wants him dead? Review: Catch-22 is dark, daring, and sharply satirical. Based on Joseph Heller's controversial novel, the 1970 film dares to criticize war not through action, but absurdity. At the time, its raw nudity, moral ambiguity, and anti-war sentiment led to heavy censorship and bans in several regions. Watching it uncut today reveals the film's full bite, a surreal war drama that exposes the horrors of blind obedience and the fragility of sanity. It's not your typical war movie, it's a psychological maze wrapped in dark comedy. Now streaming and censored, Catch-22 hits harder than ever in today's world of endless conflict and systemic irony. And there you have it, 15 once-censored 70s films that were banned, butchered, or buried, but now live on in their uncut glory. These weren't just movies, they were bold statements, cultural shocks, and artistic revolutions. And thanks to modern platforms, they've finally broken free from the scissors of censorship. Which of these films blew your mind the most? Tell us in the comments. We love hearing your takes on these cinematic rebels. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Globewise Entertainment for more untold Hollywood stories, banned classics, and hidden movie gems. Because here, we don't just watch movies, we dig up the ones they didn't want you to see. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep watching Globewise.